Welcome back to the 80s. Welcome back to the 1980s. We're back in the crack era. Is the return of the crack epidemic. The crack this time around contains no cocaine. The crack this time around consists of a social validation and instant gratification. The crack this time represents a tear in creation, a widening crack that then becomes a gulf, keeping one from crossing over into the promised land, which only means being at a place in your life where all good promises made to you are kept. The promises of our ancestors in some regards never landed. The promises of our forefathers in some regards never landed. The promise is still unfulfilled and never landed. The promise is still up in the air, and what goes up must come down, only if the prince of the power of the air says so. Right, Jehovah gave Satan this planet to be a god over. How do you feel about that? Jehovah never ruled out male sacrifice, and by sacrificing Jesus and many other martyrs, the handwriting has been on the wall. And even now, since the crack has not been repaired, masculinity is still under the gun and possibly under the threat of extinction. First, social extermination, and then eventual actualized elimination. The crack between the promise being told and the promise actually landing is what sends a million boys to die in a war between two men. Crack is doing that. Not crack as in cocaine, but crack as in a flawed portrait, a pit, a drop-off point, a cliff, an edge, a dividing line, the wrath and the wraith of Pharomanes, the numberer. So go ahead in this new crack era and keep voting. This dwindles the little side money that the Census Bureau workers manage to scrape up by doing door-to-door visits. And if you think there's too many people at your door, then imagine how many people are standing at your heart knocking. Because Jesus is not the only one who goes to the door and stands and knocking on the heart. No, everybody else is coming up to your door too. That's the crack era. A lethal dose being delivered in CCs. What are the two C's? Convenience and convention. Conventions are being held by the few in order to dictate the conveniences of the many. So while the world watches marked men ascend the Illuminati pyramid, it pays no mind to the ones who descend into the pyramid, walking around in the subconscious bottom half of the oversoul's diamond. Two C's, convention and convenience. The third letter of the alphabet twice. This makes 33. This is the crack era. David versus Goliath. And where is the attack? Where was Goliath struck down at? In the forehead. What energy center is that? The third eye. Right, so they're not after your crown, they're not after your root, they're not after your sacral, they're not after your solar, they're not after your heart, they're not after your voice, they're not after your crown. They are after your third eye. They want to change how you see things, because if the quote-unquote they can change how you see things, they can effectively change you, essentially. That's where you, with one bird, with one stone, you can slay 7 birds. 7 birds with one stone, all 7 chakras. Now, you can go on to say that there's 13. And we can probably jump back into that in other videos. But for now, just keep your eyes on the prize and understand that this social construct that we're living in, just because you don't see people walking up and down your average street zombified off of some heavy drug, doesn't mean that the culture of addiction has not advanced since the 1980s. Take it from a person born in the 1980s. When I came on the scene, that's when fathers was really going out of style. It was a lot of single mother scenarios in the time of the 80s. But now you see what it is now. The dynamics are even further removed from that. Not only is the father removed from the home, but the mother is removed from the home, the father's removed from the home, the children are even removed from the home. There's nobody in the home but the bills that are being paid for the home. And those are apples with worms in them, essentially. Can we change this? Absolutely. Just stick with me. We'll dig into how. Super T Sigma, Sigma Programming. Stay illuminated.